Hi, Ledger Baptist. I'm here to cover week 24 in the Chronological Bible Study. I hope you guys enjoyed your reading this week, and we're just going to start with a little bit of a review. We talked about how David passed in church last Sunday, and we talked about the turmoil that was happening in the family as to determine who would be the next king. And God's choice was Solomon, and as we saw, that came to pass, and Solomon became the third king of Israel. In Kings, we learned that, in the beginning of Kings, we learned that Solomon had asked God for wisdom, and we assume that he did that because he was fairly young. From what I read, he was roughly in his 20s, I guess, when he became king. So he was probably overwhelmed by the task that he had ahead of him, and so he asked God for wisdom, and God granted that. In fact, not only did he grant him wisdom, but he gave him much more too, many more blessings, because God described how he thought wisdom was a very honorable choice for Solomon to request. So we see the gift of wisdom kind of described in the book of Proverbs. And just to give you a little background about Proverbs, Proverbs is supposed to be like a handbook for Christians to know how to live well in God's world. The definition of a proverb is a truth condensed into a few words that can apply to many of life's situations. And I know many of you have been reading the Proverbs for years and can probably attest to the fact that that is true. The aim of the book of Proverbs is to show the importance of not only gaining wisdom, but also applying it. It is one of the 5 books of wisdom poetry in the Bible. Those 5 books include Proverbs, Psalms, Job, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. The book teaches us how to be in a relationship with God as we live publicly in the world, because I think that's something we all probably can relate to, right? Like in the world that we live in, there's a lot of unbelievers, there's a lot of problems in the world, it's a broken world. Like, how do Christians move out into the world and represent God well? So Proverbs is a great kind of toolkit to give us some advice on a variety of situations that we will encounter in our lives. I had read that Solomon wrote something like 3,000 Proverbs. They are not all included in the book of Proverbs. And he was also a songwriter. We learned that, I believe that was in Kings as well when we were reading last week. And this week we covered 2 sections in 4 to 24. The first section is chapters 1 to 9, and those chapters cover, it's basically a letter of advice from a father to a son about how to live. And wisdom is not considered law or prophecy, but it's accumulated insight of God's people through their experiences. So the Israelites had been around for a while, right? They had a lot of experiences, so there was a lot that they could learn from that should help them as they move forward to make better decisions in the future. Solomon focused in those chapters on reverence for God, fearing the Lord. In fact, it says in my commentary that the fear of God was mentioned 18 times in the book. So that's definitely a clear theme that is intended to be made in the book of Proverbs. We learn that the author is kind of trying to tell us that humble submission to a loving God will lead to 2 things: steering clear of evil and an abundant life with God. Again, the focus on fearing God over fearing man is important here, and I just wanted to read to you a couple proverbs in here that kind of stuck out to me, and in those first 9 chapters. Proverbs 4:20 to 23 says, "My son, pay attention to what I say. Turn your ear to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to one's whole body. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." So in that proverb, we kind of learn that that's true. It's not just a rule. It's describing how it's important to guard your heart. It's how you're acting, your motives, all of that. So I think that kind of shows the application what Proverbs is trying to get at here too. And then I'm going to read 16 to 19. There are six things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So if we have any questions about things that God doesn't want us to do, Proverbs makes it very clear, specifically about certain things that we should be steering clear of, in chapter 6 here. And then just one more from that section. I'm going to read chapter 9, verses 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So I think that is a great summation for the book too. Just the importance of fearing God as part of wise living. And then in the middle section of Proverbs, it starts in 10, we learn how to apply that fear of the Lord in a variety of situations in life. And it covers multiple things: marriage, drinking, parenting. There's all sorts of applications, life character, a person's character. So there's various, very, very many different situations that it describes, so that we can get some clear guidance on how revering God can actually move out and we can live that out in our lives. So we learn that it will likely go well for us if we follow the Bible's wisdom. And we also learn that it will likely go badly for us if we don't follow the Bible's wisdom. But the main thing that I took away from this section was that it's not intended to be a promise. If these things are true, it doesn't mean that if we follow these things precisely, it doesn't mean that exactly what we want to happen will happen. And the reverse is true also. Bad things won't always happen if we don't follow them. But the point is that it's not a formula. It's a relationship. We're in a relationship with God, and we do God's will because we love God and we want to honor him, not because we're expecting a certain outcome. And I think that's an important thing to kind of remind ourselves as Christians, because relationships are about loving other people enough to kind of deal with the selfishness in our own lives, right? So I'm going to read just a couple verses from this second section as well. And this will be 14:30. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. 15:1 and 3. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. And this is 19:8. The one who gets wisdom loves life. The one who cherishes understanding will soon prosper. And 19:18. Discipline your children, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to their death. 21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And I really was thinking as I was reading a lot of these Proverbs, just like it kind of brings you back and centers you to, to the reality of how small we are in God's big world, that we also often think that we have the answers. We often think that we know more, and that if, people could just listen to us, then maybe they would get maybe life wouldn't be so hard, or, whatever. And it's just not that simple, right? So this is a good reference manual when you're facing things that you don't know what direction to go, to come back to books like Proverbs and Psalms and the other wisdom literature, just to kind of rebalance us, and get us back in the right frame of mind. And I know that one of the commentaries I was reading, he was saying that every day he tries to include with his regular Bible reading a chapter in Proverbs and a chapter in Psalms, because it's really centering. So I would suggest it's a good practice to consider. And again, we're asking those big questions. What does this tell us about man, and what does it tell us about God? And I think we will have a lot of answers to those questions this week. And just a reminder, it's Children's Day this week, so the kids will be sharing with us the message of Proverbs. So I hope to see you Sunday, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks.